Hey, it's James Lynch. In some surprising news, it appears that former UFC bantamweight champion, women's bantamweight champion, Ronda Rousey is in talks to box Katie Taylor in a Las Vegas showdown in 2026. And I'll explain in this video why I think it's a terrible idea, and this could end up being an absolute disaster here for Ronda Rousey. Let's have a look quickly at the article, which talks a little bit more about the details here. It says Katie Taylor and Ronda Rousey are involved in active negotiations to stage a mega bout in Las Vegas, the most compelling women combat sports fighters of the century. I can't read right now, apparently. Ireland's two-time undisputed boxing champion, Katie Taylor, 25-1 with 6 knockouts. It's coming off a July victory over Amanda Serrano. Rousey is 38 and was in WWE. Most recently, I think her last fight was against Shayna Baszler in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. We obviously know the UFC career. She hasn't fought since the loss to Amanda Nunes, which is back in December of 2016, a fight that she got knocked out in 48 seconds. Didn't go so well. And then the fight prior to that was a knockout loss to Holly Holm. Ronda Rousey does have some knockout wins. She's actually got 3 in her career, but she's a submission artist. I don't understand this idea of her going to boxing other than this looks like she needs some money. That's kind of how I'm looking at this, because why on earth would you be doing a boxing match as opposed to doing like a grappling fight? I can understand grappling, right? Rousey's got 9 wins by submission, comes from a judo background. Most of her wins in her career were by submission. You can see, I remember the run she had, which was just incredible, where she's, finishing a lot of women and, like under like a minute, basically. It was pretty crazy, but, yeah, I just don't think this is going to end up well if this does end up happening. And look, coming from Lance Pugmire, who's one of the best when it comes to covering boxing, this does look like a very legit thing that could happen. This isn't some Instagram post from some kid in his basement. This looks like a legit report that's going on there right now. So yeah, pretty crazy. And if you guys don't know anything about Katie Taylor, there's been some rumblings about her and Chris Cyborg maybe fighting. This is going back a couple of years. Obviously, Chris Cyborg, known for her knockouts and known for her striking. We saw that in the UFC. But you look at Taylor's resume, I mentioned that there are 25 wins, 1 loss. A lot of knockouts too. So 6 knockouts, I should say. I shouldn't say a lot. Let me take that back. Only 6 knockouts in her career. But I mean, we're talking about like a legit boxer. This would be like, and to some degree, this would be like Damian Maia boxing Floyd Mayweather in Mayweather at the end of Mayweather's career, right? Like Damian Maia is not known as a knockout guy. Neither is Ronda Rousey. Damian Maia, I think, does have some knockout wins in his career, but this would be like the equivalent of that. I don't really get the understanding here. Like I said, I think it must be like money related. And look, I'm not alone in this sentiment. You look at the replies right now. We've got, a lot of people kind of wondering, what's going on here. Chris Cyborg and her team kind of making fun of Ronda Rousey here, saying, I once saw Ronda Rousey shadow boxing in her shadow 1, 0 chance she fights boxing. So Cyborg's team doesn't think this fight's even going to happen. I have my wonders as well. Like, it just doesn't make a ton of sense here. Not to mention Rousey's like getting close to 40. Maybe return to the cage for the Gina Carano fight, but Ronda doesn't belong anywhere near a boxing ring. So that's coming from Chris Cyborg. Some big words there. Front Row Brian saying, after reading the article, this sounds like a trial balloon. Let's see how much people hate it, or messaging to the UFC to get the checkbook out. No promoter, no venue, no networking. Okay, so Brian, I will say, is sort of in the know when it comes to sort of the business side of things. This does make sense that maybe this is being put out here just to get her in the UFC and maybe drive the price up a little bit. I've said this before that, I don't want to see Ronda Rousey come back to MMA at this point. It's been too long. Right, we're talking 2016, 9 years ago, right? Was the last time she fought Amanda Nunes. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I just don't like. I think there's a possibility if she fought certain women in the division that Rousey would perform well. Because bantamweight is one of the weakest divisions in the UFC. But like her fighting any top fighters in MMA, and then her obviously fighting in boxing, just very, very, it just doesn't make any sense. Again, I can understand a grappling match, right? Because that's what Rousey's thing is. But anyway, if we look at the replies, but I don't think I see a single person in the replies here that is on the side. Someone saying Katie KO her, please. Is Rousey broke? Ronda can't box, right? So this sort of speaks to that. I don't even know what her striking stats are in the UFC, if they even have them. If they even registered them here. Like, her striking accuracy is at 52%. Like, that's not good. Her striking defense is at 44%. Now, granted, that's mainly because she got knocked out by Holm and by Amanda Nunes. Her takedown average is good. Again, this is where a grappling match would make more sense. But looking at some more of the replies here, no chance this will be a real fight. How on earth could the Athletic Commission sanction this. That's a good point too. You know, I'll give Luke credit when it's deserved. I agree that this could be a fight that I don't think would be sanctioned. A lot of people here, Mike Bond, crazy proposition. My biggest question about Rousey and combat or Sturm in any form. How does any commission in good faith? Yeah, that's a great point, actually. Something I didn't even think of. How can they license this when Rousey has no boxing fights? None, zero, right? And even her coming to MMA was from a judo background. And obviously she had to work her ground game and everything else. But you look at a lot of these wins here, they're arm bars. You can't arm bar there. So, yeah, we'll see if this ends up happening. But do have to do a video on this. Do have to mention this. I know some people will say, who cares? I mean, it's a former UFC champion potentially fighting in a boxing fight, right? So, yeah, I don't think I see a single person here that's in support of this whatsoever. They did. Now that I noticed it, there's the, if you remember, like back in Ronda's heyday, they had her on Ring Magazine. And I remember Rogan talking about how she would be a great boxer. I mean, obviously that didn't end up too well. It's too bad because I say this before, many times on my stream, I've talked about this before. If Ronda had fought anyone else on the UFC roster other than Amanda Nunes, she probably would have won. Because if you remember at the time, you had women like, Kat Zingano. Well, actually, she already fought Kat, but they're like Jessica Ai, she never fought. That would have been a fight for her. Remember, Jessica Ai fought at bantamweight. She could have fought Miesha Tate again. Like, these are the fights that I think she could have won. And it was just very mismanaged. And then, Rousey did sort of the thing that, that is kind of left a sour taste in everyone's mouth. And that is she just left after the Nunes loss. Kind of feels like it was inconclusive the rest of her career. She accomplished a lot. I mean, again, like for people who didn't get to watch Ronda Rousey in her prime, she was the it factor. She was like Conor level to a certain degree where, everyone was talking about her. Everyone knew who Ronda Rousey was. She was getting highlight reel finishes. She was like one of the biggest stars in the UFC, and that all went away when she just basically left after the Nunes fight. But like I said, like just bad businesses. And my understanding was she wanted Nunes, right? It wasn't the UFC doing this. If I think the UFC had it their way, give her a bounce back fight, then fight Nunes, right? So it was a little crazy, but people were buying into the hype because with Rousey, because if you remember, she was a favorite in that fight against Amanda Nunes. Looking back now, it didn't really work out that well, but yeah, I mean, I think it's too bad because I think if Rousey had fought someone else, maybe built her way back up. I still don't think she's ever going to beat Nunes because Nunes was just such a great striker at the time, and still is. But I just think that Rousey could have had maybe a different career and different relationship with the UFC fans as well. And then of course, Rousey's been in the news as well. I did a video on this before. What do we have here? The Joe Rogan comments. Remember this from a couple weeks ago. Joe Rogan is not an expert, so he's a fan with an audience. He's never fought. Taekwondo is not fighting, which didn't win her a lot of fans over either. So this could be like a long game play of like Brian said here in this quote, of trying to get a big payday from the UFC. And we'll see. I mean, the UFC has struggled to make stars, right? Like they're kind of banking on Conor, hopefully to be on the White House card. Dana already said John Jones won't be fighting, but I'm sure he'd like to have him on. So we'll see. Again, this is a big event coming up, but this looks like a bunch of smoke that might not lead to anything, and maybe we see Ronda back in the UFC, but I don't know. We'll see. Again, you're trashing Joe Rogan, probably not a good way to get back in the UFC no matter what the price tag is. But yeah, if you go look on the quote tweets right now, I can't find a single person who's in support of this fight, and it doesn't make any sense. Here's Al Bernstein here. I'll read one more just because he's a boxing guy. Once again, a crossover bout that makes little sense. Rousey is not really one of the better strikers in MMA and has been inactive in true combat sports for a while. I guess the name value will create interest, but not sure why. So yeah, we'll see if it ends up happening. So is there anyone here that wants to see this fight? I don't think there's going to be a single person in the comments who agrees with this. What do you make of Ronda even making this play? Do you think it's a long play to get in the UFC, get back in the UFC, I should say? Let me know. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.